Good morning everyone. I am DR.R.DEVI, Assistant Professor, Department of History, A.D.M. College for Women, NAGAPATTINAM. Today my topic is Sources of Ancient Indian History. In this session of Ancient India, we are going to see about sources of ancient Indian history. From the sources, we get many information about the Indian society at various periods. They are so valuable and useful for the study of history. Introduction. We have a variety of sources for reconstructing the history of ancient India. Broadly, they can be classified under two main categories. The sources of the history of India can be divided into two major groups. The first one is indigenous, the second one is foreign sources. The indigenous sources can be further subdivided into two classes, that is literary and archaeological. Okay, let us see these sources under the following headlines. Indigenous sources. All historical interpretation are ultimately based on evidence derived from the sources of history, conventionally divided into two categories, literature and archaeological. The first one is literary. Indian literature is partly sacred and partly secular. The literary sources can be subdivided into three groups, with Brahmanical, Jain and Buddhist. Brahmanical literature. Hindu religious literature includes the Vedas, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata and the Puranas. They tell us about the social and cultural conditions of ancient times. From the Brahmanical literature, we know the early history of India. Vedic literature. The word Veda comes from the root, literally to know, and means knowledge. There are four Vedas, that is Rig, Yajur, Sama and Atharva Vedas. Give a graphic picture of the Aryans. A critical study of the Vedic literature will throw a flood of light on the history of Aryans in India. The Vedic literature is in a different language. Its vocabulary contains a wide range of meaning and is different in grammatical usages. It has a definite mode of pronunciation in which emphasis changes the meaning entirely. The Vedas give reliable information about the culture and the civilization on the Vedic period, but don't reveal the political history. 6 Vedangas are the important limbs of Vedas. They were evolved for the proper understanding of the Vedas. The Vedangas are Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarma, Nirutta, Chanda, Jyotisha. Vedanga has been written in the precepts form. This is a very precise and exact form of expression in prose, which was developed by the scholars of ancient India. Ashtatyayi. Ashtatyayi, written by Panini, is a book of grammar that gives excellent information on the art of writing in sutra. The later Vedic literature. The later Vedic literature includes the Brahmanas, the Aryankas and the Upanishads. Brahmanas give a description of Vedic rituals. Aryankas and Upanishads give speeches on different spiritual and philosophical problems. Two epics. The two epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata. The two great Sanskrit epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, fall within the category of Sanskrit as well as Idikasa. Although the Ramayana is sometimes classified as Kavya, that means poetry. But they furnish us with a true picture of the economic, social and political conditions of the later Aryans. Dharma Shastra and Puranas. Dharma Shastra and Puranas are more or less the real histories of ancient India. There are 18 Puranas and an equal number of Upa Puranas. They were composed in the period of ranging from 3rd century AD and 1000 AD. Among them, the following are very important. The standard list of 18 Mahapuranas includes the Vishnu, Narada, Bhagavata, Garuda, Batma, Varaha, Matyesha, Kurma, Linga, Siva, Agni, Brahmanda, Brahmavaivata, Markandeya, Pavishya, Vamana and Brahma. We know the origin of the rulers from the Puranas. Further, the Puranas help us to know the historical geography of ancient India. Buddhist literature. The religious works of the Jainas and the Buddhists are important sources of history. Among the non-Brahmanical and non-Sanskrit sources of early India, the Buddhist and Jain literature constitute an important category. It was written in the Pali and the Prakrit languages. Prakrit was a form of Sanskrit and the early Jain literature is mostly written in the language. Most of the early Buddhist literature is written in Pali. With the Buddhist monks, it reached Sri Lanka where it is a living language. The Asokan edicts are also in Pali. After the death of Buddha, the Pali text Tripitakas tell us about the state of affairs in India at the time of the Buddha and the 6 Mahajanapadas. The next one is Tripitakas. The Tripitakas survive in Pali, Japanese, Chinese and Tibetan versions. They consist of 3 books, the Sutta Pidaka, the Vinaya Pidaka and the Abhidhamma Pidaka. Jatakas. The Jatakas throw invaluable light on the social and economic conditions of the period between the 5th and the 2nd century BCE. Jaina literature. The sacred books on the Jainas are collectively known as the Siddhanta or Agama. The language of the earliest text is an Eastern dialect of Prakrit known as Hatha Mahati. The text written in Prakrit contain information useful for the reconstruction of political history of Eastern Uttar Pradesh and Bihar in the age of Mahavira. The Jaina literature mainly consists of Angas and Ubangas. There are 12 in number and contain the teachings of Lord Mahavira. There are a few biographical works written in ancient India. Among them, Harsasarida, Ramacharida, Kumarapalacharida and Prithviraj Raso are very important. They help tremendously in compiling an authentic history of India. Mutra Rakshasa of Visakadatta. The Mutra Rakshasa of Visakadatta gives the story of Chandragupta Maurya and Chanakya. It describes the overthrow of Nanda dynasty by the Mauryas. Arthasastra of Kaudilya. The Arthasastra of Kaudilya contains a lot of information. It not only gives us detailed information with regard to the system of administration, but also gives us an idea of the social and religious life of the people. The dramas of Kalidasa such as Sakuntala, Raghuvamsa, Malavyakani etc. give useful information about the social life of the people. In addition to this, Kamutaga's Nitishra is considered as a valuable source for Gupta period. The 3 drama of Harsha, the Nahananda, the Ratnavali and the Priyatarchika throw interesting light on the history of the 7th century AD. Another source for ancient Indian history of India, Panini Mahabhashya. It throws light on the non-monarchical form of government of this time. In the Dravidian literature languages, there are many historical references to the political history of India from the 2nd century AD onwards. The Tamil Sangam works of the 2nd and 3rd century AD give the useful information about the South Indian civilization. Certain Kannada and Telugu literatures are also very useful to know the history of Deccan. Foreign sources. To India came Greek, Roman and Chinese visitors either as travelers or religious converts, and they left behind accounts of the things that they saw. It is remarkable that Alexander's invasion finds no mention in Indian sources and is entirely on the basis of the Greek sources that we have to reconstruct the history of his Indian exploits. Chinese travelers. Fagian and Yuan Shuang were Buddhist and come to this country to visit the Buddhist shrines and to study Buddhism. Fagian describes the social, religious and economic conditions in India in the age of the Guptas, and Yuan Shuang presents a similar account of India in the age of Harsha. Archaeological sources. The archaeological evidences can be divided into the following groups. The first one is inscriptions, coins, architecture, sculpture, paintings, and archaeological antiquities. Inscriptions. The study of inscriptions is known as epigraphy. Inscriptions is a vital source of history. It gives information about the chronology of rulers, extent of kingdom, social, religious, and cultural aspects of the society, personality, and interest of rulers. Several inscribed seals have been discovered from various sites of Indus Valley civilization but are yet to be deciphered. Earliest deciphered inscriptions are written in Prakrit language in Brahmi script and were deciphered by James Prinsep. These belong to the Asokan period. These inscriptions shed light on the charitable deeds of Asoka and the cultural and religious aspect of the society. The inscriptions have helped in deciphering history of royal houses, especially Mauryas, Kusanas, Guptas, Vahadakas, Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Satavahanas, Sahas, and Sungas. Junahat rock inscription of Rudradaman I of about 150 AD informs about Sudarshan Lake constructed by Vaishya Pushyagupta during the rule of Chandragupta Maurya. Earliest inscriptions of Meghrauli iron pillar are attributed to Chandragupta II of Gupta dynasty. The inscription tells that the rulers in a Vishnu devotee. Another inscription on the pillar is attributed to Tomar king Anangpal. It's claimed that Meghrauli pillar was moved from its original place. The earliest deciphered inscriptions are the Asokan edicts, which have been found on the rock surfaces and stone pillars all through the subcontinent. In the Gandhara region, Kharoshthi script was used. They threw light on Mauryan history and Asokan's achievements. Allahabad pillar inscription. Allahabad pillar erected by Asoka is notable for eulogy in Sanskrit about Samudragupta by a poet Harisena, which tells us about his military exploitation and his love for music. In the 14th century AD, two Asokan pillar inscriptions were found by Feroz Shah Tughlaq, one in Meerut and another at a place called Topra in Haryana. He brought them to Delhi and asked the Pandits of his empire to decipher the inscription, but they failed to do so. The same difficulty was faced by the British when, in the last quarter of the 18th century, they discovered Asokan inscriptions. The post-Mauryan and Gupta inscriptions fall into two categories, official and private. The official inscriptions generally record the royal achievements and are written by court poets. Among such inscriptions, popularly known as the Prasastis, the most prominent ones are the Prasastis of the Emperor Samudragupta engraved on the Asokan pillar at Allahabad. The Allahabad pillar inscription describes the career and achievements of Samudragupta. The Hadikumba cave inscription gives a graphic picture about Karavela of Kalinga. Private inscriptions. Private inscriptions are mostly engraved in temples or on images of stones or metals. Numismatics. Next to the inscriptions, coins are another important archaeological source of history of ancient India. It is considered as the second most important source for reconstructing the history of India, the first being inscriptions. Several hundred thousands of coins have been found and deposited in different museums of India and abroad. The study of coin is known as numismatics. Coins shed light on culture and religion, political climate, extent of kingdom, economic conditions, trade and commerce. A study of the Indian coins enlightens us a great deal regarding the history of ancient India. The name of the king with the imperial titles can be gathered from those coins. We get a lot of information from the coins about the Indo-Bactrians and the Kushana kings. Punch marked coins. The earliest known coins are punch marked coins which made mostly of silver and copper. They were not inscribed and were more or less in rectangular shape, which did not contain any name but figures and symbols only. Indo-Greek started gold coins, inscribed coins by regional rulers including Indo-Greek came into circulation. Coins helped in establishing chronology of Sagas, Parthians, Satavahanas and Kushanas. Many rulers of smaller kingdoms are known only because of their coins. Generally, the coins of Indo-Greeks depicted monarch on the axle with name and deities on the reverse. Mostly, monarch was shown in martial pose in Indo-Greek and Kushana coins. The art of coinage. The art of coinage was at its peak during the time of Guptas, after which the skill of minting artistic coins seems to be degenerated. Guptas minted a large number of gold coins. Guptas issued gold coins called dinar, which display artistic excellence, metallurgic development and the strong economy of the Gupta Empire. In Gupta coins, the monarch was shown both in material poses like riding a horse or an elephant, slaying lion on a tiger, etc., and in socio-political and lesser activities like performing Ashwamedha Yaga and playing Veena. Coins of early medieval times tell us about the increasing influence of Muslims in political of India. Muhammad bin Tughlaq was the first emperor in India to start token currency to replace precious metals. From the coins of Guptas, we know the economic condition of the period. From the Roman coins, we get a lot of information regarding the trade and the commerce that exists between India and Rome. Moreover, coins are also a principal source of our information regarding the various Indian states, both monarchical and republican, that flourished during the ancient India. Architecture. Buddhism gave inspiration to the development of architecture. The Mauryan architecture shows their thought and mind in this field. Sculpture. The material generally used in the tough stone and metal. The development of the Gandhara school of art in the 1st century AD exercised great influence on sculptural development. We know certain historical fact from the sculptures. Painting. From the paintings, we know the religious condition of ancient India. From the Ajanta paintings, we know the whole life of ancient Indians panorama. Archaeological antiquities. The study of poetry, beads and other minor objects has solved many chronological problems. Many information have been supplied by these things in respect of Indus Valley civilization. Monuments. The historical monuments provide vital information regarding prevailing societal and religious condition of the contemporary time. The temple and the sculptures are found all over the country, right from the Gupta's period up to recent times. These show the architectural and artistic history and achievements of Indian culture. These monuments can be broadly divided into religion and secular monuments. Religion monuments include temples, chaityas, viharas, stupas, etc., whereas buildings like palace, fort, stables, granaries, etc., come under the category of secular monuments. The secular buildings also give political information to some extent. For example, the granaries of Indus Valley civilization point towards an authority involved in collection and distribution of grains. The brick was used in the ancient temples of North India, but it was stone in South Indian temples, which gave it more durability. The temples give an insight in the changing sceneries in the religious life of people and how importance of temples increased gradually in daily life. It also indicates the economic condition of the time, as building grand temples may not be possible without a sound state treasury. Cave architecture provides information about Buddhism and Jainism and to some extent Hinduism. Also, cave architecture is also a major source for information in respect of Ajanta sect. Murali paintings in caves indicate artistic, social and religious condition. Viharas give details about the social life of Buddhist and Jain monks. Stupas architecture not only tells about architecture and religious and spiritual life of Buddhist but also about sculptural art. The palaces and pillars of Mauryan Empire were to some extent influenced by the Achaemenid architecture and shows the cultural exchange between two empires. After the advent of Islamic role in India, the composite culture gave rise to Indo-Islamic architecture with archway style. Use of mortar, miners, jolly work and calligraphy suggesting the gradual assimilation of the new rulers within the Indian society, but noti without influencing the later. The following are the important excavated sites and towns of ancient India: Vaishali, Rajagiri, Nalanda, Dakshila, Ujjain, Sanchi, Brahmagiri, Amravati, Nagarjunakonda, Madura, Varanasi, Kausambi, Hastinapur, Avantipur, etc. So, the religious and the secular buildings have helped in filling the missing gaps in Indian historiography with the help of other available sources of the time. Thank you so much. Thank you.